operations. At the February 11th, 2019 regular council meeting, council approved the fire services operational review being awarded to Dillon Consulting. After administrative review of the consultant's initial work, administration agreed that the broader examination of fire services through a master plan would better inform and assist council and administration in future decision making. The work done to date by the consultant would be used as part of the master plan, which would look at providing opportunities to focus on a more holistic approach to fire service delivery through the public education, prevention, training, department administration, fleet facilities, and communications and technology. With this broader examination, the city would then be able to focus its efforts on the development of a fire services organization and operational structure that better meets the community's future needs and council's strategic priorities. After the commencement of the fire services operational review, it became apparent that the work being completed would have to be repeated or would provide a partial evaluation of the fire services. Any model that determines staffing needs to be properly informed and reflect what it is that the fire service would focus its efforts on. I'm aware that council had some questions at the GPC meeting relating to the meeting with council and what that would entail. That those costs for those meetings were actually dual costs because they would be on site anyways. So the additional costs are related to them informing and working with the senior administration on project update, review of where the project is at that time, preliminary findings, analysis, and presentation of options for consideration and discussion in addition to the meeting with council, informing them of the overview of the project, the legislative responsibility, the current industry guidelines and standards, and to seek council's input on administration and operations of the fire department. I was also aware that council had asked a question relating to how in depth would the master plan go with future asset management and capital purchases. Within the proposed fire services master plan process, Dillon staff would be assessing the current equipment, apparatus, and light vehicles used by the fire department for functionality in response to the identified community fire risk, life cycle planning and replacement. This would include assessing the existing capital replacement planning and process, and where applicable, this task would also identify any additional equipment or vehicle apparatus, including capital costs, that the city should consider based on the fire risk present. They would also look at the location of Fire Hall 1 and whether it is properly situated to properly respond to calls within the city. The options presented to council are that they approve the scope change of $60,432 to amend the fire services operational review project to the development of a comprehensive fire services master plan. This will provide a wide-ranging review of the Lloydminster Fire Services to better inform future fire service operations and provide for added opportunity to better formulate the future of the Lloydminster Fire Services to meet the needs of the community and the strategic priorities of council. The council denied the scope change of $60,432 to amend the fire services operational review project to the development of a comprehensive fire services master plan. This would still allow for the completion of the operational review, but would see a duplication of documentation and cost by the completing of a fire master plan separately. Or the council could send it back to administration for further work. The initial cost of fire service operation review is budgeted for $50,000 and awarded at $49,438. The additional cost to increase the scope of work to the comprehensive fire services master plan would be additional $60,432 for a total cost of $109,870. The initial funds for the scope change would be reallocated from project capital savings.
Thank you, Your Worship. Questions or comments? Councilor Dutcher.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess, thank you, Your Worship. A question I had, I guess, is when we look at the development and the downtown area restructuring plan and future development of complexes, perhaps the high density, there are 10 stories, 15 stories. So as we look at our equipment and hardware, you know, I'm just trying to think of how we coordinate all of this as we look going forward, sort of. I get it, it's a crystal ball that it's pretty hazy right now in terms of future development, but our capacity in terms of stories that we're able to deal with the fire, what's our maximum right now with our equipment that we have?
I wouldn't feel comfortable answering that question. I'd be more comfortable if the chief could come up if he's available.
Thank you, Councillor. So in terms of building height that we can safely build in the city as well as keep safe, we do have the capabilities. Council did make an investment in 2015 for a new aerial ladder that is 115-foot operational. That gives us anything within the city right now we can safely safeguard against. Looking forward in new developments, there's a lot of variables that go into what we can suppress based on the footprint as well as height. But when we're looking at the mid-sized community developing those 6 and 8-story buildings, I feel that we are out of it.
Okay. Did you say 2015 or 2050?
2015, we purchased that new aerial ladder.
Okay, right, okay.
So Chief, to be more specific than 8, what is our tallest building? I'll start with a question. Do you know what our tallest is? 8 floors, 8 stories?
Yes, there is an 8-story building.
Okay, and we can adequately service that. How much more can we test it to make 10 stories be maximum?
When we start getting into higher rise applications, we need to develop, the fire service needs to develop more high-rise fire protection, and it's not just size of apparatus, but also how we, what kind of fire protection systems are built into the buildings as well.
And I would imagine the building code would deal with site matters. The new building code.
Yes, correct.
So if I just follow up on that, so the location of the equipment is, because we're not, geographically, we're not spread out over significant areas, so that the location of this fire station in the future would not really be as critical at this point than if we were to build taller buildings and say 15-story apartment building.
If we are building a larger complex as well as large medium density, they do represent a significant amount more of fire risk, as well as the service demand of that many more people living in the proximity to each other does increase. That is, when you make those new developments out, that's something to measure when you are looking at expanding your fire service and looking at new locations of fire stations.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Thorson.
Thank you, Richard. We have a pretty good idea of the change in the cost on this scope. I'm just curious, what is the desired timeline for this now? Because my understanding of the operational review is it was relatively quick turnaround, but now with a full-scale master plan, I'm just curious what that looks like.
The consultant has said with the additional work that they feel that it will take an extra month. So initially we were looking at June, and now we're looking at the end of July. But it depends how fast we get information transferred to them.
Perfect, thank you.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Richard. It was just it's not a high cost item on the budget, but when you use the word building stock profile on task 2, I'm not sure I got my head around building stock profile. Is that an inventory of what kind of buildings we got in the city, or what does that really mean? It's on task 2, first item in the budget. They present it. I just didn't know what it meant.
I'm not seeing that, Council. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, so I was trying to follow through it. I got lost there, and I just...
No, I don't have it in front of me, so.
I'm sorry, I can't answer it right now. I'll have to get back to you.
No, that's okay.
But I'm sure that makes sense, Council, that they would, I don't know if that would be the fire service that would do that. It wouldn't be the consultant, I think, that makes sense. That may be a task that's...
I don't know.
Yeah. You have a page number, Council? It's right on that.
Yeah,
It's the presentation
yeah.
that was received from the GPEC, correct?
Did you want to look at it?
Sure, good mind. We'll try to get that answer to you sooner than later.
So just looking at that from what It's a community risk assessment, so building stock profile, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
The chief can assess on this.
Maybe, yeah, we can, I think, chief answers.
Oh, okay. I just didn't want to amend.
Yep,
I'll take a stab at it, chief, if I go too far wrong, please jump in. Building stock profile in the community risk assessment will be the types and nature of buildings and functions of the buildings within, so we can, if there's industrial, we'll look at commercial, we'll look at residential, numbers, types of buildings and construction. Would that be correct, chief?
That is correct. It's a look at all the buildings that we have in our community, ranging from single-family dwellings up to your high-hazard industrial, so your F3. So it'll be looking at all those occupancies as well as critical infrastructure within our community, things like our water treatment, wastewater treatment, city hall, hospital. It'll be looking at all of our buildings to determine what is a risk.
and that would be at a high level, chief, if I can ask that to explain that, because you're not gonna do every, the consultant won't be doing every building, but they'll determine approximately 60% of our industrial buildings are metal. Could be metal frame, metal cladded, versus 40% are metal cladded and wood structured. Is that kind of what you would think that assessment from that perspective is?
Yeah, you're correct, Mr. Mayor. It's instead of focusing on the application of the building code in a single property, it'd be looking at that holistic approach of the community and determining where is the fire risk. So is it a medium hazard industrial, where is those areas versus a single family dwelling on our southwest.
Does that answer your question, Councilman?
Right, and my follow-up question
Okay.
is then, there's quite a few of these items really, the city's gonna be doing the work on, and just giving the information to the consultant. They're not gonna be doing all this.
Well, I'm not sure, you know, that is.
There is quite a bit of data collection that will go on, and once that data collection is provided to the consultant, then the consultant will take that data and put it into.
But it's gonna be fed to them by the,
Yeah, so
City
there'll be a
staff.
lot of the data that is fed out of our.
they're not gonna do the work. They're just gonna take our facts and figures and use them, is that right?
For the most part, I don't think they're going to recreate the work that's already present.
And that will come through development planning, I would imagine, City Clerk, that based on building permits and things like that, and some of that information will come from?
The information that they're going to collect is going to come from planning, it's going to come from the fire department's records, it's going to come from the whole array of city departments.
Thanks.
Okay, Councilor Corson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one more question I had. I know something that has been kind of thought about in the not so distant past, and we're still kind of working on it, is related to building codes and things like that. Does this report suggest or make suggestions, make recommendations in terms of building codes, depending on the level of fire service and our ability to service?
No.
It doesn't go that far?
It's not going that far. Look at the current building code that we use. I don't think it'll make a recommendation to expand or change the building code, nor would I expect it to.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Councilor Baker.
Yeah, I had the same question as Councillor Baker as far as the information that's being gathered. I was taking a look at a master fire plan that our consultants had done earlier, and it's about a 400-page document. And there's everything from nuts to bolts in there. And this community, they had formed a committee and worked with that. And I'm just wondering, is there going to be a specific committee that's formed in those different departments?
We won't be forming a specific community, but the fire chief, deputy fire chief, myself, and one of the executive assistants will be working closely with Dylan to provide information.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea with all the changes that have been going on in the fire department. I think this is a perfect time to see where we're at and where we're going to be going. So I think it's very timely, and for those extra dollars, I think we can set our direction on where we want to be and where we need to be.
I agree with you, Councilor. I think that the challenges when we started out, we knew we'd get to one of these master plans. We were just looking for something, maybe the first step. Now the first step's turned into the full step. I think it would be a waste of money not to do the full master plan. Because anytime we duplicate things, we know we get frustrated. I'm sure administration gets frustrated, and I know the taxpayer gets very frustrated. So I think if we can get good value for the money when we spend it once, we'll do it right the first time. And we were able to take something that we started down the trail, and we can still get a full step out of that value for a little bit more money. Any other comments? With that, I'll look for direction then from council regarding 6.2.2. Councilor Tajik.
The council approved the scope change of $60,432 to amend the fire services operational review project for the development of comprehensive fire services plan. I think I read it in the wrong spot there, sorry.
You were close, Master Fire Services Master Plan.
There you go, comprehensive fire services master plan.
Thank you. Secretary, Councilor Fagan. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, council.
Moving on to 6.2.3, City Manager, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item up is the amendment of the 2019 meeting schedule. The recommendation is the council approve the addition of a regular council meeting on Tuesday, April 30th, 2019 at 10 a.m. to review and accept the 2018 audited consolidated financial statements. The 2018 consolidated financial statements will be ready for presentation to council on the 30th of April 2019. The Lloydminster Charter outlines that the city must submit financial statements to provincial ministers by May 1st of the year following the year for which the financial information returned and statements have been prepared. Wilkinson, Livingston, Stevens, LLP, the city's external auditors, are working with administration to complete the audit for this year, ended December 31st, 2018. The following council meeting is scheduled. The following closest council meeting would be scheduled for May 6th, 2019, which is following the May 1st submission deadline to the provinces. The administration is requesting the addition of a council meeting on Tuesday, April 30th, to allow for the 2018 audited consolidated financial statements to be accepted prior to the May 1st deadline. The options are the council approve the addition of a regular council meeting on Tuesday, April 30th, 2019 at 10 a.m. to review and accept the 2018 audited consolidated financial statements. This will ensure that the financial statements are reviewed and accepted by council prior to the May 1st deadline. Or the council deny the addition of the regular council meeting on Tuesday, April 30th, 2019 at 10 a.m. to review and accept the 2019 audited consolidated financial statements. This would prevent the city from meeting the May 1st deadline to have the financial statements accepted by council and sent to the provinces. Section 222 of the Lloydminster Charter requires the city audited financial statements to be submitted to the province by May 1st of the year following the year for which the financial statement information returned and statements have been prepared. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, City Clerk. Questions or comments for City Clerk or Administration? I guess I've got one, so the City Manager through the CFO. We will have these statements prepared for that date.
As we speak, I just received an email with the first run of the draft statement, so we certainly will get you a copy of the draft ones to preview prior to Tuesday, but we're on target for having them available on Tuesday.
Perfect, thank you, CFO. Councilor Torsi.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just trying to go through my memory. Do we remember, when did we approve them last year? Was it in June or mid-May?
I believe it was July.
July, yeah. So all I want to say was, it sure is a lot nicer not having some of the kinks that we had last year to work out, and good job to the team, even to get us this much closer to the mark. And I'm fairly confident that next year will require a special meeting. Not that it's a big deal, we can definitely make time for it. But yeah, good work. This is a lot better than July. Which I'm not blaming anyone, but that's just how it worked out last year.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? We always extend to stay within the boundaries of the provincial governments have laid before us in the charter, even though they don't always play in the same sandbox. Correct, Councilor Baker? Without any further questions, I'll look for direction then from council on 6.2.3. Councilor Torsi.
Move that council approve the addition of a regular council meeting on Tuesday, April 30th, 2019 at 10 a.m. to review and accept the 2018 audited consolidated financial statements.
Seconded, Councilor Monroe. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.3. Up to the city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship, to present 6.3.1 2019 budget revisions. I'll turn it over to the CFO, Denise McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship Council. We have before you revisions for the 2019 budget. On November 26, 2018, Council approved the 2019 budget with a total operating revenue of $51,568,456, operating expenditures of $109,636,679, which that number includes the amortization of $22,057,891, resulting in a taxation levy requirement of $36,093,318, and the 2019 capital budget, which was a total capital revenue of $51,233,465 to support the exact same costs. There have been changes that have occurred which impact the 2019 budget. The budget revisions are attached with the overall net impact of a slight decrease of $88,212. The 2018 incomplete capital projects are attached and require council's approval, but that total will be pulled from reserves. So I'd like to just take you through the list of revisions if I can. So under operating, we have additional revenues from investments and a grant for $234,151. Collected agreement changes that were negotiated after we put together the budget, as well as the current negotiations, $674,770. The census project was canceled, and that includes equipment, hiring, contract, and software for $88,000. Fire master plan that you just were privy to today, $60,432. Information technology eScribe has been put off till 2020, and that's $17,750. For a net increase of $395,301 out of operating. Under the capital, we looked at opportunities to reduce that. So we have additional grant increase for $55,565. Assessment and taxation cost savings from vehicles for $34,000. Building maintenance that were canceled. There was 3 projects there that were canceled for 19 and for a total of $395,000. Engineering East Storm Channel Rehab, $197,401. And then engineering street rehab cost savings of $393,20. GIS strategic plan was added for $25,000. Fleet photo radar unit was added for $45,000 for the second unit. Information technology printers was missed when we presented the first budget for $16,000. LCSC artifact management project for $55,106. LGCC lift and automatic door upgrade, $55,565. River intake raw water pipeline replacement is canceled for 19 and will be reintroduced at a later date. So there's a cost savings of $90,000 for which we wanted to implement additional water meter replacement program for $19,000 for a total cost savings under the capital side for $483,513. Overall net decrease of $88,212. We've also included a list of 2018 capital projects that were not completed that we'd like to have approved by council in 2019, but do not require additional tax dollars as it was supported last year, so it will be a draw on reserves. That being said, council's options are to approve the adjustments to the 2019 operating budget to increase the overall operating expenditures by $395,301 and decrease capital expenditures by $483,513. Further, that council approve the 2018 capital projects, but that capital projects that will be completed in 2019 for a total of $1,431,000 $1,950.65 from reserves. This will allow administration to carry forward with the revised budget plans. The second option would be that council not approve adjusting the 2013 operating budget and to not decrease the capital expenditures. Further, the council not approve the 2018 capital projects that would be completed in 2019. This will delay some of the capital projects to 2020. The third option would be that council requires additional information to be brought back at a later date for council meeting. And this might delay the passing of the 2019 property tax bylaw.
Thank you, CFO. Questions or comments? Councilor Torson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mostly have a comment, and that's just thank you to the team even for putting this together as part of a presentation and really a decision item. In the past, this wasn't always something that would go to council midway through the year. Some of these things would be a decision that's made internally, and it's not necessarily as clear and transparent as to where funds are being reallocated that may be a variance from the budget. And that's not to say that it wouldn't be new money in the other scenarios, but just making sure it's clear that, you know, where there were savings, these are where the savings are going instead, and that when other things were picked up through the process that we captured them and showed the residents and taxpayers that this is where the savings are going and where it's logical to spend the money. And I think that that's a great activity to do to really even show us where we're at from where we believe we were at year end and even where we got to up at this point during the year. And other than that, I think you actually said it very well, but the important thing to note with the money coming from reserves, the 1.4 million in projects, those really are projects that were budgeted for the 2018 year. Were not completed during the 2018 year, so those money already automatically went into reserve just by the nature of how it works. And now we're pulling it from reserve because they weren't completed and they're going to be completed in this year. Just so that it lines up at December 31st, 2018, so that everything is kind of a snapshot in time of where you're at, and now we pull it back out of reserve so that it can go into those projects and it's nice and clean and tidy. But at the end of the day, it makes total sense, and it really makes it clear for someone who's interested as to where the money is going and why money was pulled from reserves in the current year. And it isn't borrowing from the pot. It is last year's pot that just didn't get used up during the year. So thank you.
Councilor Nugent.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I guess the other part that I'm looking at is the 1.4 million as well, and that tells me that we're getting closer to being able to plan for projects that we can complete within a year. And I think in years past we've had significant carryover projects that have not been completed, and this suggests to me that we're closer to around managing the amount of projects we can actually take on and complete.
Councilor Speaker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under our summary, I pretty well got a handle on them all except two. And one was information technology, eScribe. I can't remember what you did there. Can somebody tell me?
Certainly, thanks for the question. So the eScribe is the video portion of the council meeting. So it's the software that will allow us to have our own videos, a better recording of the council meeting. So we've just put it off until we can get better equipment in order to bring forward that portion. So that will be part of the 2020.
The key word was better equipment.
We need better cameras, maybe better projector.
I just didn't remember us talking about that detail. Under capital, and this struck me as a real concern, under the second line to the bottom, river intake raw water pipeline replacement. Now, we've had various conversations about the intake at the river. I'm not sure that this particular pipe was part of that, but to me, that's a pretty critical part of our whole system, and I just don't recall when we decided not to do this. Maybe there's a good explanation for it. It just scares me, if you want to put it that
Executive Manager Stang?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Councillor. Excuse me. That project's being put on hold until next year when a large user of our water is planning to have a shutdown. We can manage our water in our reservoir much better without usage occurring at that same time. So it's a piece of pipe that eventually does need to be replaced, and it was scheduled to be replaced this year. But due to planning for water conservation, we feel it's much better to do that in 2020 versus 2019 due to the shutdown of a major facility.
Okay, I was just concerned because that intake's always been a challenge, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, my understanding is it's not the actual river intake, it's a piece of pipe upstream from.
Okay, I just didn't understand it. And last, but certainly not least, and Councilor Jonathan talked about it, was the 1.4 million, and we call it from reserves. And that's fine. For you and I understand it, you did a good job of explaining that. It's important for the public to know that 1 point, it's just to carry on from that project. It's, in my mind, it's not even a reserve, it's cost to complete a project we've already started. So we've got to be careful that how we, in my mind, cost to complete, we have the money set aside to cost to complete that project, which we approved, right? Reserves are typically, we haven't spent them or allocated them yet. That was my definition. And so I could just ask our city manager and Keane to think about that. But when a project's in progress and you go over a year end, and you do a year-end closeout to see where you're sitting, in the world of construction, they call it cost to complete. You know, the money cost to complete. So whether that means anything or not, but in my world, where I came from, it does. It's not a reserve, it's cost to complete. And there's quite a difference in the world of construction. So I just asked, because I was getting confused myself.
Thanks for the question. So at the end of the year, we're required to put those monies in reserve to set it aside to complete those projects. If we do not set that money aside, then it goes to accumulated surplus and can be used for other.
Okay, but that's in reserve.
So we set it aside to specific reserves in order to finish those capital projects in another year.
Can you put it in a file that calls it cost to complete?
I think, Councillor, if I can, I think it's a terminology difference. And I hear what you're saying. And I think, so I think that the important part is the reserve that's, in this particular case, is being a specific reserve. It's, we know, accounting knows, and administration and finance knows that reserve is from 2018 capital projects. And I think I can speak a little bit of this. The provincial government had a big problem in Saskatchewan until they finally, because once they allocated the budget money for a construction job on Saskatchewan highways and transportation, it had to be spent that year. And they finally got to the methodology. Yeah, I know, well, how can that be? Because sometimes, and a few years ago, there was a change in direction in the accounting of the provincial government to allow for multiple year construction projects. This isn't quite the same, but its bottom line is that to keep the books clean, as they want to, that money at the end of the construction year, and it will happen again in 2019, hopefully it's even less than what we have today that we're dealing with, that projects that didn't quite finish off 100%, there'll be money left in the budget that goes to a reserve, which in turn administration will come back next year and say, we have 300,000 as an example left in our to pay for in 2020, rather than take out 2020's budgeted money. And it's simply, I think about it in our own homes and in the business world, it may not, but the way the accounting structure is set up in the public for ourselves and for the city, in this case, it's got to be as clean as a sharp knife saying, that's the end. We start over again January 1st. So I think the CFO, as she's indicated, has gone to a special reserve. That's what's paying for this, and I think that's important. You've hit a good point. Taxpayers are going to say, well, you're taking out of the money you're saving. No, this is last year's money that didn't get spent, but because of the system, and I guess that's the best description. CFO, is that a good description? Is the system we use and the process that we use, that money couldn't get dumped into the 2020 budget, it's sat in reserves. That's the way I see it, and I hope I explained it from a layman's perspective. If someone asked me to say, well, where did that money come from? It didn't just, we know money doesn't magically appear. It was last year's money being spent this year. That's in a separate account. And call it reserves, because that's really what it is. It's not, you either got surplus or you're in the minus.
Yeah, cost of reserve for completion.
Yeah. So we're not digging into what we truly talk about building a reserve in the city and having reserves for certain items. This is a specific reserve for capital projects carryover.
Can I try with this one on you?
Certainly.
Cost, I believe, would be reserve for completion then? Because to me, when I look at it, just says reserve, that's money that's set aside that can be spent on something. The money that's set aside to finish a project or projects that are in progress, you can't go and spend the money. You've already signed it off. You've dedicated it to somebody. So I don't know how you do it, and I guess I have to wait for the new financial statement. But somewhere in there, in my mind, it should say money carried over and set aside for completion of last year's projects, or something like that. Some way to describe it, so you can define the two,
Yeah.
not just a reserve. Because we're talking now about looking at some reserve policies. And so if we have reserve policies, how is this going to work with reserve policy? Just a question.
Yeah.
And I'm very much a layman accountant, so just asking from the old construction days how you deal with that. But that's the way I see it. So that's good for now. Thank you.
I think I hear what you're saying. Administration, I'm sure, the CFO, and I don't want to answer for you. If you want to, I believe it's very clear what that reserve is from that perspective.
As long as it's clear to the public, it was.
Yeah, and again, how it's clarified to the public, and how it comes to you for any further direction.
I think what our point is to ensure that the public knows we're not double taxing. It's been taxed in the past.
That's exactly my point
Put
too.
aside, and now it will be pulled from reserves in order to complete those projects. So that's not in addition to the 19 tax rate.
So I guess and as I look back to the sheet, it's capital projects carried forward adjustments. If that's how it's referred to in the reserves or something like that, I think is what Councilor Baker's aiming to.
We'll leave it as it's given.
Clear. Yeah. And again, good point, Councilor, because I think that's important that the taxpayers understand that, as the CFO's indicated, and you did, we're not double dipping for the same project twice. That it is being accounted for, and I think that's the question that this council's been tasked with, and we appreciate the CFO's roles and her duties to ensure that all dollars are properly accounted for and ensuring that everything is accounted to the last cent, or in the last cent. even though it's
Great, thank you.
Further comment? I will look for council for direction on 6.3.1. Councilor Fagin.
The council approved adjusting the 2019 operating budget to increase the overall operating expenditures by $395,301 and decrease the capital expenditures by $483,513. Further, that council approved the 2018 capital projects that will be completed in 2019 for a total of $1,431,950.65 from reserves.
Seconder, Councilor Patrick. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 6.3.2. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship, to present 6.3.2 capital projects levy policy and review. Once again, ask Denise McDonald to present.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. In the background, policy 022-2017 was passed on October 30th, 2017, and it was established to provide members of council and administration with a framework for proposing and approving capital project levies annually. The tax levy was to be determined annually by resolution based on the annual capital budget requirement for the city. The capital projects levy provided support to establish either a fixed dollar amount or a percentage of the annual capital budget requirement. Since this policy was meant to be established in addition to the tax rate bylaw, it created additional administration work. It also meant that additional tax rate needed to be set and managed. In an effort to be more transparent, the city should present a municipal tax levy for residential and non-residential properties that will consider all operating and capital work. Capital work will be supported by a combination of grants, reserves, and transfers that are tax supported. Therefore, the capital projects levy policy should be repealed. Council has three options. Repeal the policy 022-2017 capital projects policy that will create an all-encompassing municipal tax rate going forward. Council requests changes to the policy 022-217 capital projects levy policy. This could potentially delay approval of the property tax bylaw for 2019. And finally, that council requests more information on policy 022-2017.
Thank you, Chief Financial Officer. Questions or comments? Councilor Thorson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as far as this policy goes, it's one of those easy come, easy go. I understand why we did it at the time and what I think the purpose was behind it, but I can understand what you're saying in terms of administratively being very difficult to administer, because you would have to go through every single capital project and look to see whether or not there's where the grant monies are applied to within the capital to see what the overall capital levy is, whereas, you know, kind of just putting it all into one municipal mill rate, it's simply, this is the amount we need from tax dollars for the year, and this is the total. Easier for people to understand, and I think probably easier for council to understand as well, is just looking at it all as one rate, and then comparing, you know, apples to apples with other communities and everything like that, seeing it move from year to year. I think it takes some of the challenges out of that. So I understand why we would be looking to change a policy that we enacted in 2017, but I think at the time it made sense based on where we're at, but I definitely see administratively this being a benefit to the individuals working at the city, and also people looking at their property tax bill and making sure they really understand what their rate is and how you would compare that across other communities. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I'm glad to see we're actually eliminating the policy once in a while. We've heard about a long list, and I think it certainly has the benefits of keeping things transparent, as you've indicated, CFO, from the perspective that when the tax bill comes, the tax bill will be very straightforward. It's not confusing, because people may ask what the capital projects are. We've already identified them in the budget in December. Again, we've just discussed them today, but capital projects are part of the city's operations, and it takes operations and capital to make the city run. We can't run completely on operations, because if the capital is not looked after and dealt with, we won't have the improvements that we seek every day. So thank you for combining that. And it doesn't change, just as a question. We have not adopted this policy in the tax notices. I did not notice a capital levy last year, or did I miss it?
There was a capital levy last year, however, there wasn't a resolution. It was part of the tax bylaw.
Okay.
So we've eliminated it, proposing for going forward.
Okay.
So it'll just be a municipal levy, residential, municipal levy, non-residential, and then of course the school rates, right?
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor Thorson.
I move that council repeal policy number 022-2017 capital projects levy policy.
Seconder. Councilor Dowchuk. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to 6.4.1. Councilor Thorson, you want to excuse?
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
No problem. Just have an interest inside your name there, so. I'll look to see that.
Thank you, Your Worship, to present 6.4.1, 2019 Street Improvement Program Contractor Award. I'll ask James Rogers from Engineering to come forward.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon, James.
Is that better? Before you is the 2019 Street Improvement Contractor Award. The recommendation is that Council approve the award of the 2019 Street Improvement Program to D. Jorgensen Holdings Limited, operating as Northern Blacktop of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, for $1,985,000, $590.15, excluding GST, and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, Council approve a contingency allowance of 15% in the amount of $297,838.52, excluding GST to be funded through the approved capital budget. Due to age, condition, and deterioration of the existing surface works infrastructure, administration must continue to rehabilitate, maintain, and replace existing infrastructure, such as our asphalt concrete pavement roadways, concrete curb and gutter, and sidewalks, to maintain adequate levels of service for residences, businesses, as well as expanding and improving existing trails and sidewalk networks throughout the city of Lloydminster. The 2019 Street Improvement Program is an annual program that maintains and improves the city's transportation system. The SIP, or the Street Improvement Program, repairs and replaces city infrastructure on the surface within the road right-of-way. The program is divided into 3 major categories and locations as follows. We have the Street Improvement Program, the Asphalt Trail Improvements Program, and the Concrete Sidewalk Improvement Program. The city issued a bid document to acquire the services of an experienced prime contractor to complete all construction activities for this program on March 21st, 2019. The bid document package was issued and posted on the city's bids and tenders website, as well as provided to the city's pre-qualified surface works contractors. The tender period closed on April 10th, 2019, with 3 bids being received and reviewed for correctness. The total tender amounts, excluding GST, are summarized in the table below. The submissions were evaluated based upon the total tender amount for all parts, as identified within the table above. However, based on the current status of acquiring the land needed to complete the intersection improvements, it is recommended that the following provisional items be removed from this year's program. That being 44th Street and 62nd Avenue intersection, and the 12th Street and 75 Avenue intersection. The total tender amounts for the remaining parts, excluding GST, are summarized in the table below, and that's where we see the $1,985,590.15. Construction for this project is anticipated to start in May of 2019 and is expected to be completed by September 15th, 2019 as well. We have 2 options. That Council approve the award of the 2019 Street Improvement Program to D. Jorgensen Holdings Limited, operating as Northern Blacktop of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, for $1,985,590.15, excluding GST, and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, Council approve a contingency allowance of 15% in the amount of $297,838.52, excluding GST, to be funded through the approved capital budget. This option will ensure that construction can start as early as May and be completed by September of 2019. Our second option is that Council direct administration to gather more information, and that information be presented at the next Council meeting. The 2019 Street Improvement Program has an approved budget of $3 million, with the anticipated costs of the project shown below in the table. Furthermore, administration continues to work towards acquiring the necessary lands to implement the intended intersection improvements associated with the 44th Street and 62 Avenue and 12th Street and 75 Avenue intersections. Discussions associated with the land acquisition were initiated in 2018, with the final stages anticipated to be completed in spring, summer of 2019. Administration anticipated this process to proceed at a faster pace. However, discussions have delayed the acquisition. If the acquisition of the reference land is completed in a timely manner and construction timelines can be maintained, administration will present the proposed land land acquisition and possible contract extensions at a future council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Questions, comments? Council Baker.
Worship, help me out a little bit. I don't know about the 75th Avenue and 12th Street intersection, but 62nd Avenue, 44th Street. Did we not acquire land a year or so ago for that intersection?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. I believe talks were initiated in 2018, but it just drug out. It took a little bit longer, and we are still in the process of acquiring that land from the current property owners along the west side of 62nd Avenue.
Okay, I thought the deal was done, but, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing any, I'll look for direction from council. Councilor Monroe?
The council approved the award of the 2019 street improvement program to D. Jorgensen Holdings Limited, OA Northern Black, also known as Northern Blacks Top, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, for $1,985,590.15, excluding GST, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, council approved a contingency allowance of 15% in the amount of $297,838.52, excluding GST, to be funded through the approved capital budget.
Seconded. Councilor Belcher. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, would you mind stepping up to your councilor? Thank you. Thanks, James. Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, 6.4.2, city manager.
Thank you, Worship, to present 6.4.2, 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching contractor award. I'll ask Dave Henning from our operations department to come forward.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Council.
Good afternoon, Dave.
Before you is a 3-year asphalt patching program. Recommendation that council approve the award for the 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching program to Danbury Asphalt Maintenance, an estimated yearly cost of $169,984.50 plus applicable taxes, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. I did it on 1 year because every company held fast on for the 3 years. They bought the same price each year, so that's why I did it on 1 year for that. The city of Lloydminster requires a formal agreement to be in place excuse me, for the 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching program. The city of Lloydminster is securing contract services for the 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching program. Generally, the work consists of patching utility repairs and digs that have went on throughout the winter in the following year, and completing general road repatches within the city of Lloydminster as directed by administration. Recently, administration conducted an open bidding system for the 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching program. A request for proposal was issued on March 22nd, with a closing date of April 12th. The RFP invited companies interested to submit a proposal for the material, labor, and service for patching utility digs and asphalt deficiencies within the city. A thorough analysis of the proposal was conducted to assure the proponent with the best understanding of the requirements outlined in the RFP is selected. There were 3 respondents to the RFP, with all 3 being chosen for evaluation. The evaluation criteria and weight are noted in Table 1, and the total submission scoring results indicated in Table As a result of the evaluation process, Danbury Asphalt Maintenance has the highest score and is considered to be the best qualified to fulfill the requirements outlined within the RFP. Options: the council approved the award of the 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching program agreement to Danbury Asphalt and Maintenance Limited for an estimated yearly cost of $169,984 plus applicable taxes, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. Option 2, the council not approve the award of the 2019 to 2021 asphalt patching program agreement to Danbury Asphalt Maintenance for an estimated annual cost of $169,984.50. The council direct administration to gather more information to present to the next council meeting. This will result in a delay of the program. The asphalt patching program is part of the 2019 roadway surfaces pavement maintenance operating budget and does not exceed the allocated funds.
Thank you. Councilor Thorson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just first, I had a question just on for the estimate. So I'm assuming all of the bidders gave you like a price per pothole type of thing, and then from there you could kind of develop an estimate for the cost for a year?
What I've done is I set up some lineal meters, and what we pay is for product applied. So it's not per pothole, so it's per tonnage applied to the repairs. And there's also a milling aspect to it, so where they mill out and then replace as a price. And then there's also part of the program is the asphalt can come in 2 or 3 different depths depending on what road we're working on. So if we're on arterials or highway, we might go to 4 to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. So that all based on applied by machine or applied by hand, and 4, 6, and 8 inch in depth.
Okay. Thank you. This sounds like a very complicated tender to me, anyway. I don't know, because there's so many variances. I think they could come into it. But I just want to say I think it's a great idea to do like a 3-year MSA type of thing. That gives you the ability to get started, as soon as you can, as soon as the frost kind of is out of the ground, that you can start actually doing it. We can get moving on things quickly, earlier, already have an idea of prices that we're locked into now for 3 years, which, from a competitive standpoint is even better. So I think it's a great idea to do this, and it looks like the cost is within reason and apparently within budget, and it also gives us an ability, I think, with having kind of locked in price per unit to assess at the end of each year what the asphalt, like what the patching program may look like for the following year. And then give us an idea of how much we need for the budget, and if it ends up having to be more one year because there's an especially large amount of cracking and potholes and things like that, or a lot of digs through part of the year, then it gives us the ability to do more if we need to. So, and apparently at a competitive price. So, my only question with that though, is there any kind of upset limit within this? So we're using an estimate right now, but is there kind of an upset limit of like the max? You don't have to tell me what the number is, but just whether or not there's a kind of a high-end ceiling of what the most we can do in a year.
Yes, there is, based on how we set up the budget. And if we get into a situation like that, then it's a lot closer prioritizing on some of the holes and stuff that we might have to carry over the whole year.
Okay. And then I just have one more question as far as if you get a year where, after the snow melts, there's a particularly large amount of potholes, and we know that, then that gives you the ability to adjust the budget, come back to council and say, like we did in this, prior agenda item, we're going to need more this year than we've said in the past because of the conditions of the roads, and then we already have pricing on it, so it's a matter of estimating how much.
Yes, that's correct. And then also we work with engineering, and in the fall, if we know we're going to have some areas, over the last couple of years that are stable, then we work together to try to get it in the SIP program. Because if we get a situation like that, it's going to be a lot bigger project.
Right.
And instead of, just digging out a few patches and repair them, that's when we get into the long situation.
Okay. Well, right on. Thank you very much.
Councilor Dutcher.
Thanks, Your Worship. It says in here that so it's material legal and service, so they provide the asphalt as well.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Another question, I guess, is that we've seen at SUMA a couple of times and through whatever the materials we get as council, but there's a machine, probably $250,000, 300,000, where one single operator, all materials in there, it simply goes in and it's almost like it really just drills everything out to square, rolls it out, patches it up, tamps it down, and it's gone. So in terms of manpower and speed, this device looks like it just rolls along like at a pace that's incredible. So have you ever looked at it?
We have looked at it a bit. We've talked to some municipalities, and there's a select few that actually can run the piece of equipment.
Yeah.
You need an eye to operate it. They make it look good when they first put it out, but it's the leveling process of the machine that really requires the person to do it. So we still do a spray patch on our own part, that trailer mounted spray patch equipment, but we have been looking and we're still looking at options like that for sure. This here is more pertaining to items that actually have to be dug out though. So, yeah.
Well, now it looks like a rubber, literally dropped it down and just rubbed it out. And I assume that they could play with the depth and all these sorts of things.
Yeah, substance sheets there, I'll take the top coat off and then they'll tap what's bottom. Some of these situations when we run into utility digs, the digs are done in the winter time, so they might not necessarily pack right because the ground's frozen. And there's some more reclamation underneath the pavement lots of times to take a look at that also. And even with some of the rutting and the broken pavement we get, it's not necessarily the pavement's fault, it's sometimes it's the base, so there's some excavating going on.
No, and I guess the other part is we're saying, I'm thinking of that section of 36 just going into Parkview, that's nice and low in there, and every year there's these cones that you have to drive around. Between spring, because there's some significant holes.
Between 60 and 60.
So these guys can patch that and it's good.
We're hoping, yeah. Like I say, it all depends on the base sometimes. So that one will need some for sure.
Any other questions or comments? I'll add that it's appreciated, James, you have 3 years. It makes your job easier, it makes administration from that perspective, and working with the contractor. And again, all 3 contractors were local, which was great to see. And certainly having a contractor that can hit the ground running in the spring next year and after the following year, hopefully will make everybody's life a little easier.
Yeah, and they actually like it also because they already know that they got the work in the next 2 years and save on bidding on other work.
Absolutely. Any other questions? If not, I'll ask for direction from council on 6.4.22. Councilor
Will the council approve the award for the 2019-2021 asphalt patching program to Dan Ray Asphalt and Maintenance for an estimated yearly cost of $169,984.50 plus applicable taxes, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents.
Seconder, Councilor Baker. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to you, City Manager, for 6.4.3.
Thank you, Your Worship. To present 6.4.3, the Leachate Management System Contractor Award, I'll ask James Rogers to once again come up and present.
Good afternoon again, Mayor and Council. Before you is the Leachate Management System Contractor Award. So the recommendation is that Council approve the award of the Leachate Management System program to Beretta Pipeline Construction LP of Onion Lake, Saskatchewan for $1,894,696.50, excluding GST, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, Council approve a contingency allowance of 5% in the amount of $94,734.83, excluding GST, to be funded through the approved capital budget. The issue, as presented to Council at the October 23rd, 2017 GPC meeting, a condition of the permit to construct issued by the Saskatchewan Ministry of Environment associated with landfill cell 1.3 construction is that a leachate pond or treatment system must be in place. The detailed design of the leachate management system was completed by a consultant in 2018 with a quotation to construct a leachate management system solicited from the current contractor who is completing the landfill cell 1.3 construction program. Unfortunately, due to budget constraints, the quotation was not accepted, with the program being carried forward into 2019. In 2019, administration requested an increased budget, which was in line with the quotation received. The city issued a bid document to acquire the services of an experienced prime contractor to complete all construction activities for this program on March 14, 2019. The bid document package was issued and posted on the city's bids and tenders website. The opportunity to submit a bid for this work was not limited to the city's current pre-qualified contractors list, as this work was deemed highly intricate in nature and required specialized contractors. As such, the bid document was open to all contractors. The tender period closed on April 10th, 2019, with 2 bids being received, and they were reviewed for completeness and correctness. The total tender amounts, excluding GST, are summarized within the table below. The submissions were evaluated based upon the total tender amount, as well as reference checks and other mandatory requirements stated within the bid document. Construction for this project is anticipated to start in June 2019 and is expected to be completed by September 16, 2019 as well. We have 2 options again. That council approved the award of the leachate management system program to Beretta Pipeline Construction LP of Onion Lake, Saskatchewan for $1,894,696.50, excluding GST, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, council approved a contingency allowance of 5% in the amount of $94,734.83, excluding GST. All to be funded through the approved capital budget. This option will ensure that the construction can start as early as May or June and provide an opportunity to complete construction by September 2019. With the second option being that council direct administration to gather more information and that information be presented at the next council meeting. Delay of the award will push the start date of the project for the successful proponent later into the year. The leachate management system has an approved budget of $2,170,000, and awarding this project to the contractor will not exceed the available budget. The anticipated costs associated with the project are as follows within the table below. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Questions, comments? Councilor Sharp?
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about if somebody asks me about this. So just to make sure I'm clear, so a leachate management system, basically, and if I remember the pictures right at SUMA, they compared landfill to being like a giant bathtub, and this is essentially the plug that gets unplugged so you can get all the water out from like all the, I guess we'll call it garbage juice that goes to the bottom so you can get it out.
Leachate concept, bathtub juice.
Yeah, thank you for your question. You have that fairly close to correct. Each landfill cell has a liner underneath it, a leachate collection or a garbage juice collection system, which flows or is pumped into the leachate management pond, where it is then collected, and then every once in a while it is pumped to our wastewater treatment facility to be treated with the rest of our effluent.
Awesome. Okay, I know what I'm talking about then. Awesome. Thanks.
Councilor Baker?
Well, Worship, I don't know about the bathtub. But it's sure an expensive one.
It is.
I guess the question is, what's happened. But this legislation came out of nowhere. We built a, I think it was $1.3 million pit or bathtub. And as we're building it, then we get instructions we're gonna add a $2 million addition. How much did the Saskatchewan government give us towards that pit, leachate system?
From a direct funding, I believe 0. Now, I'm going to qualify that.
Zero, you said?
I said 0 on that.
Zero is
But
good.
I'll qualify it, Councillor. I know what you're going at. The governments of Saskatchewan, Alberta will provide operating and funding for the municipality to be determined in our best interests where we want to see it fit. I won't disagree with you. We often face these very regulatory issues, and we know we have one even bigger looming over our heads yet today. I can't give an explanation, but you're absolutely right. It is by legislation that we're deemed to do certain things, and we seem to have no choice.
So what we're saying here is, we gotta find this $2 million, just out of the blue. It's either gonna come from landfill fees or taxes. And I guess my objection is not to this, we have to do it. But I think the people in our community have to know why garbage costs what it costs. And I really bothers me when governments at higher level just arbitrarily decide they're gonna do something and download it onto the smaller municipalities. If the really only tax base we have is property tax, and say, go and build a $2 million pump for your bathtub. It's quite a jacuzzi we're building here. And I think somehow we should get through to our premier and have them talk about that and decide how they're going to help these municipalities. And it's not just Lloydminster. I'm sure it's all of the landfills, and there's not very many left in the province. As I understand, they're closing many of them. So consequently, the cities with the landfills get stuck with the bill. So I think that somehow we have to have a discussion with the government and say, what are you going to do about this? Because it just keeps coming and coming and coming. And how do you meet your budgets?
Well, Councillor, I think I can add that this continues to be an issue raised at SUMA, the annual convention, and certainly it's an ongoing discussion that we have. I think members of this council attended the meeting with the environment minister. We hear from communities. They're closing more and more landfills due to the cost of closure and maintenance and things like that. I think this is just an ongoing thing. And as we look at again, talking about a regional perspective, potentially that there could be some cost sharing or cost built into taking other people's waste, because this is not going to go away. We know that the landfills are only going to get more expensive. So it puts a lot of pressure on our taxpayers to take advantage of the green bin, as an example, and speak about the recyclable program, because every ounce, pound, kilogram we can keep out of our landfill will extend its lifetime and lower the average cost. And I think that's the message that's so important, and maybe it would be a good time to plug the toxic waste roundup. We'll talk more about that later on in the council meeting. But bottom line is, the landfill is not cheap. I think people forget, oh, it's just garbage. It is only just garbage. But the rules of the game have changed dramatically from the days where there was open pits with burning, and that disposed of a lot of garbage, but that's no more. And now we have cover and everything else that goes with it. And we end up with mounds. There's no simple solution again. I don't know that, but I appreciate your message, and I think we'll continue to convey that. And as we have ministers coming to visit, I hope in the future, we can convey that very message to them. Councilor Morrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious whether, just on the leachate management system, so this is, being regulated by the government of Saskatchewan, but it will have to do it for that reason. But what's the concern in terms of if you didn't do it? And, I'm picturing this, sorry, I'll keep talking about the bathtub, but the bathtub just keep filling up, and that would probably make the ground soft that you're on? Or what would be the issue if you didn't have one?
Thank you for your question. So the issue, if we didn't have one, or currently we have a system in place, but it is starting to be quite undersized for the size of the landfill that the city of Lloydminster has. So by adding on cells 1.2, 1.3, 1.1, as we start using those cells and implementing those cells, the amount of leachate that we are going to generate just increases. We need a place for it to go. As Mayor Albert said, we can't just release it into the environment or down the street. We do need to collect it, manage it, and then treat it before we release it back into the environment. So we can expand our landfill, but we also need to expand the collection and treatment side of that as well.
So I guess I just had a comment on that, and I understand, and I agree with you, it can be frustrating to have costs downloaded onto you without any help. So I definitely agree with that, where you know, it'd be nice to get more kind of funding towards going to some of these projects, because I think they're more than just a benefit to the residents of the city of Lloydminster, but it's, you know, you got to put your green hat on every once in a while, and it's probably an important thing to, you know, kind of be more responsible with our waste and what we're doing with it, and ensuring that we have a system that is adequately doing what it's supposed to do. So there's kind of a flip side to that argument. Although it would be nice, absolutely, to get more funding coming from other levels of government. But still, we have to do it, and it sounds as though it's the right thing to do as well. Thank you.
Councilor Batchelor.
I was just going to add, I guess, to that, the green hat discussion. I mean, there are other ways of sort of dealing with waste in other countries. Like, I think it's Sweden that's actually importing waste and they're using it to generate electricity and whatever. But I don't believe we're near the size or the amount of garbage at this point in our life, right at this point, where it's actually possible to do that. So and would that be accurate?
Yes, thank you for the question. I would agree that we are not at a size and a capacity where we would start looking at options like that.
Councilor Baker.
Well, yours, just to close, is not about green or anything else. We know all about that stuff. It's about the downloading of the cost on the municipality is what I'm talking about. Nobody's arguing that we've got to do things right, but they're the kind of help that we need. And my point is that closing landfills all over the place. So people are going to want to haul garbage to Lloydminster and probably North Battleford, Saskatoon. Somebody's got to pay those bills at the other end of the line. And if garbage goes up $50 a ton to non-residents, do you think they're going to like that?
Well, I don't think they will, Councillor, and I think, as administration's informed us, they are going to be looking at the garbage from the whole utility perspective. And I guess it's one of those, it's going to be a user pay, and I know that there's communities throughout Saskatchewan, Alberta, that they have a tag system. They have, you pay for 2 tags, and that's part of your monthly bill, and more than that, you have to go buy a tag for $8 or $10. And it's going to become a major issue, because we know the rural municipalities, we see it at our landfill that when the gates close, people will just do what they do. We see it in the back roads in the rural countryside. Here from the rural municipalities, they are challenged by it. It's garbage is garbage, and it costs money. And you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, we can seek provincial funding and potentially federal funding, because again, regulate the environmental laws. And I don't disagree with you saying that the simple solution is that they put us in a box one more time, as we're getting used to it. And it's just sometimes a bigger box or a smaller box. And it's a message that we need to convey to our MLAs and to governments, respective governments, and that's all we can do. And in this case, because the landfill is located in Saskatchewan, it gets to be the government of Saskatchewan bringing the hammer down, but it would be no different if it was a mile the other direction of the city. They'd be looking at us with their scope on, and again, who knows what that would look like, because we found out each province has a slightly different level of different regulations. But point well taken, and by all means, I think that the challenge is, you're absolutely right, it's $2 million that has to be spent to fix what's going on.
Of course, we're going to be dealing with Bill right here in a minute.
Yeah. Absolutely. At the end of the day, it always comes back to it. There's someone over here. Nope. Oh, sorry. That's interesting. Need to get your arm up high.
Yeah, sorry. Just to bring some clarity, and I think members already spoke to it. My understanding is we didn't get increased regulations. We are required to improve our leachate system due to the expansion of our landfill. When we added solid 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, our existing leachate management pond was inadequate in order to get an operating permit for those facilities. We had brought it forward in 2018 as a budget item that we failed to understand the full complexity of that design, which is why we're seeing it back here in 19. That was tied directly to the cell 1.3 construction project that was brought forward in 2018, and that was completed there's a lot of talk about downloading. I agree with all the comments that were said by council. In this case, due to the expansion, we're required to meet certain obligations with that budget.
Thank you. I'll look to council for direction if there's no further questions or comments. Councilor Beck.
I move that council approve the award of the leachate management system program to Beretta Pipeline Construction LP of Onion Lake, Saskatchewan for $1,849,696.50, excluding the GST. The mayor and city council and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. In addition, council approved a contingency allowance of 5% in the amount of $94,743.83, excluding GST, to be funded through the approved capital budget. This option will ensure that construction can start as early as May 2019, and provide an opportunity to complete construction by September 2019.
Thank you, Councilor. City Clerk.
Councillor, just to confirm, that's $1,894,696.50, correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Seconder?
And the contingency.
We're okay. Seconder, Councilor Diachak. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, James. Moving on to 6.6.1, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. To present 6.6.1, Lloydminster Agricultural Exhibition Association Conditional Land Sales Agreement Amendment. I'll ask Dan Hobson from Economic Development to come forward.
Good afternoon, Ed.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillor. I'm here today seeking your approval to enter into an amending agreement with the Lloydminster Exhibition Association. If you'll recall from in September of last year, we entered into a land sales agreement with them, and some of the conditions of the land sale were them receiving funding from the provincial government in April of this year. That condition is not going to be met, so we spoke with them and we drafted and we attached an amended agreement. What we've changed is we've changed the conditions to add an additional year for the conditions that have not been met. If the conditions have already been met, we have not changed them. And we've also removed a clause in the agreement that would basically make this agreement null and void if any condition were not met, and we have added a termination clause for either party. The Lloydminster Exhibition has agreed to the agreement. They are in agreement with the agreement. There are no issues. Representatives, including Mike, are here himself. He can speak if council has any questions of them or him, and he's happy to come up and address them. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Dan. So just for clarity's sake, this is an extension, basically, the agreement that we had in place with the Exhibition Board Council basically expired because they couldn't meet the condition, which I can understand because they're just like us. They're waiting on the government, hoping that grant money comes forward. From that perspective, they've asked we enter into a new agreement to move this and give them some breathing time while they seek out that funding moving forward.
Yeah, the situation, everything, just point of clarity, is we're not entering a new agreement. We're just simply going to amend our existing agreement with them.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Will the council approve the Lloydminster Agricultural Exhibition Association, LEA, got it right, conditional land sales agreement amendment that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents.
Second, Councilor Torres. Any further discussion? Councilor Baker.
Just bottom line, same deal, just extended a year?
Basically, just a slight, that clause just slightly tweaked, Councilor.
Yeah.
And because it ran its course, it had to come back to council.
No, that's okay, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No further questions? I'll call for the question then. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We wish them Godspeed in their grant money.
You find agreements.
Seems to be an ongoing battle for all of us. Moving on to 6.6.2, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. To present 6.6.2, 2021 SO Cup bid. I'll ask Captain Butcher from Economic Development Authority.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon, Captain.
On April 30th of this year, the 2021 Woodminster Volunteer SO Cup Bid Committee, led by Chair Ryan Sklatsky, will be submitting a bid for the 2021 SO Cup. The SO Cup is a midget AAA female national hockey championship. The national event is owned and sanctioned by Hockey Canada. The 2021 SO Cup is scheduled to be held between the dates of April 18th and 24th of 2021. This tournament format including a single round robin schedule, followed by 2 semifinal games, a bronze medal and a gold medal championship game for a total of 19 games. Timeline for the committee and the bid is as follows. April 30th, the bid submission deadline. May 2019, selection committee reviews all member endorsed bids, and June 2019, Hockey Canada selects and announces the 2021 SO Cup. The 2019 SO Cup will be held in Sudbury, Ontario, and the 2020 SO Cup will be held in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. The city has supported the bid with a letter of support, a bid video, and assistance in gathering letters of support from hospitality groups. The options today is that council accept the 2021 SO Cup bid information as presented, or 2, council request further information and direct administration to present at a future council meeting.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions or comments about what's being proposed?
I'm not quite clear, so what's expected of city council other than the letter of support?
So right now, during the bid, the letter of support, we've helped a little bit with general promotion. Any other pieces, for example, dollars, venues, will be requested after the bid has been accepted.
Okay. I was just going to say that, having had a daughter play the AAA hockey, I just think it's a great opportunity to have the national exposure. Certainly, a lot of females from our community have gone through the Steelers program and performed at a very high level across Canada. Reagan Fisher being one who played with the Canadian national team as well. So I think we've been very well represented through the AAA League, and this will be another opportunity to showcase our community.
I think it will be indeed, Councillor. Certainly, the city community is no stranger to hosting national level events. I appreciate the committee coming forward with the idea and being supported by economic development. I believe this is one of the strategies that we believe adds to our community, bringing in people and highlighting the city on a national level. So I think it fits well with our economic development strategy as well as where the community likes to be. We have the facilities and certainly the talent. It would be great to have our home team hosted in that tournament if they're successful. Certainly, one thing I think about is that puts it on to the next council, but I don't think it's any more than any other council would ask for to continue to grow economic development in the city and lay that forward for the future. Councillor Thorson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have any, real questions or anything, but, just as a general statement, I'd just like to say thank you to the committee that's putting the bid together. Doing this out of the goodness of your hearts kind of thing, to give an opportunity to the city to showcase itself at the national level again, is to all of our benefit. So thank you for, putting in the effort. There's no personal gain that comes from it. It's just, a great experience for everyone and a great opportunity to show everyone what we've got. So thank you.
So for administration, are they looking for a motion of support? Or are we
Yeah, I think just a motion to support the bid as it goes through on the 30th.
Councillor
Move that accept the 2021 SO Cup bid information that's presented here today.
Seconder? Councillor Monroe. Any further discussion? Not seeing any? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. And we wish the bid committee all the best in the process as they move forward with that. Moving on to agenda item 6.7, 6.7.1, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. To present 6.7.1 Bylaw 5, 2019 repealing bylaw. That's the city clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendations are that the council grant bylaw 5-2019, repealing by both its second and third reading. As part of the governance review schedule, administration is conducting a systematic review of all governance documents to ensure bylaws and policies remain current and up to date. The repealing bylaw has been created in accordance with the Quarter 1 Q1 review. At the April 8th, 2019 regular council meeting, bylaw 5-2019 was given its first reading with no changes being made to the bylaw. Bylaw 03-2015, the temporary borrowing bylaw, is no longer needed as it is superseded by bylaw 27-2017, the operating line of credit bylaw. Historically, administration sought a new bylaw annually, which is not needed. Bylaw 41-2014, the municipal reserve removal bylaw, is no longer needed as the bylaw has served its purposes and the property has been sold. Administration did conduct a legal review of bylaw 41-2014. Bylaw 202-1977 is no longer needed as it has been superseded by ministerial order 176-94, which established the Lloydminster Housing Group and abolished the Vermilion River Housing Foundation. The options are the council grant bylaw 05-2019, repealing bylaw both its second and third readings, or the council requests more information. As I mentioned, the legal review was conducted regarding the implications of repealing the MR removal bylaw 41-2019. It was determined that the bylaw has served its purpose, and while there is a small risk of repealing the bylaw, if we ever wanted to convert back to MR, this risk is further mitigated as we no longer own the property. The governance implications of these bylaws are not required to be replaced.
Thank you, City Clerk. Questions or comments? Some great housekeeping again, including some old information. If not, any questions, I'll look to council for direction. Council Bagney.
That council grant bylaw number 05-2019, the repealing bylaw, second reading.
Seconder, Council Thorson. Any further questions before I call for the question? Not seeing any, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor.
That council grant bylaw number 05-2019, the repealing bylaw, third and final reading.
Seconder, Councilor Thorson. Any further comments? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, City Clerk. Moving on to agenda item 6.7.2, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. To present 6.7.2, bylaw 6/2019, property tax mill rate and taxable assessment bylaw. I'll once again turn it over to City Clerk.
City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendations, the council grant bylaw number 6-2019, the property tax mill rate and taxable assessment bylaw on its first reading. And I have a PowerPoint which I'll go through and then get it back into the document itself. The first slide that you see is the comparison of neighboring Alberta municipalities' residential rates. The city of Lloydminster remains one of the lowest residential municipal mill rates in comparison with other mid-sized cities in Alberta. The proposed mill rate increase would have the Lloydminster remain well below the 2018 average residential mill rate of 7.0871 mils and the 2018 median of 6.9057 mils. Once again, there's a comparison of neighboring Alberta municipalities' non-residential rates. The city of Lloydminster has an average non-residential mill rate in its comparisons with other mid-sized cities. As you can see, we are in the middle. The proposed mill rate increase would have Lloydminster remain below the 2018 average non-residential mill rate of 12.4222 mils, or a median of 12.2159 mils. Now, the next slide is the 2019 proposed residential municipal mill rate comparison. Once again, it's It's a comparison with the same municipalities. It's important to note that we've got their averages by going into their budgets and extrapolating their information and converting them into mill rates. They do not take into the assessment losses or gains of those municipalities. Based on approved tax revenue budget increases found in the neighboring Alberta and mid-sized municipalities, these proposed residential municipal mill rates do not account for other cities' assessment losses, but does account for the city of Lloydminster's assessment losses. So as you can see, the city of Lloydminster continues to remain one of the lower on the list of the mill rates of the comparables. The 2019 proposed non-residential municipal mill rate, once again, is a comparison of the same municipalities and use the same method to extrapolate their mill rates. These proposed residential mill rates do not account for other cities' assessment losses, but does account for the city of Lloydminster's assessment losses, and you can see that we remain, once again, in roughly the same area in the middle. As for our comparison with our neighboring Saskatchewan municipalities, comparison is not using mill rates because many Saskatchewan cities have base tax before the mill rate is applied to the assessment. Based on last year's mill rates, the city of Lloydminster is around the median municipal taxes in Saskatchewan as well. Even the proposed mill rate increase would have the Lloydminster rate remain below the average of the 2018 municipal taxes of other Saskatchewan inside cities. The average municipal taxes will likely increase this year, as well as other municipalities also increase their mill rates. And once again, Lloydminster in the comparables that we've selected remains in roughly the middle. So the graphic that you see now is taken from KCL Consulting Assessment Growth Analysis. The assessment year is 2018, and that's for the 2019 tax year. The net new taxable assessment is $32,606,020. This is a 0.07% increase, or 0.7 increase due to the new construction and completion of existing construction. Last year, the increase was 0.7 as well. Meanwhile, the inflation decreased taxable assessment by $90,071,650, or 2% due to the current economic conditions. Last year's decrease was 2.3%. The total taxable assessment base decreased by 1.3%, with a 2.3% decrease in residential assessments, offset by a 0.9% increase in non-residential assessments. Last year's total taxable decrease was 1.6%. The total assessment value has decreased by $50,973,160 since levy last year. This includes an increase of $8,060,350 to exempt property, partially due to the new nonprofit exemptions, and a decrease of $59,033,510 of taxable property. Last year's total assessment decreased by $61,314,510. This slide before you shows the residential assessment changes by subdivision. I believe there was a question, if you look at the lakeside, you see the residential growth increased by 5.3%. That was the area where most of the construction took place. When we look at the change less the growth, we see that it's actually declined 1.60%. Non-residential assessment changes by subdivision. In the Wakefield area, you'll see 159% growth. If you remove commercial growth, if you remove the change less growth, it is a reduction of 0.70%. And that is Saskatchewan Industrial as well. You'll see a 75.50% growth. And without that growth, you'll see no change. Those are the areas of development to the east end of the city. Once again, just for clarity, we've added the areas of the city, so you can see at the east end, you can see the Saskatchewan industrial and the Wakefield industrial areas where those two major growths were. The slide before you see is a residential impact on municipal levies only. The council approved the municipal mill rate of 6.5910, an increase of 0.69% from 2018. The formal capital projects mill rate has been combined into the municipal mill rate to create one uniform municipal rate. The municipal levy would generate a tax revenue of $36,993,000, approved in the 2019 budget. The budget proposed an increase of 2.8% overall tax revenue. The remainder of the mill rate increase is due to net assessment loss again this year. The average residential assessment is $298,510. The monthly impact figure is using the average assessment decrease of 2.30%. Also used property value. We also used property values of $250,000, $350,000, and $500,000 for the 2018 comparables. I'd like to point out, for example, you'll see in those cascading values, you'll see an increase of municipal levy of $20.73, $24.75, $29.02, and $41.45. Those are the annual increases to those assessments. The monthly impact would be $1.73, $2.06, $2.42, and $3.45 respectively. The non-residential impact on municipal levies only. Council approved the municipal mill rate of 11.8635, an increase of 3.69% from the 2018. The formal capital projects mill rate once again is combined into one municipal mill rate. The municipal levy would generate a tax revenue once again of $36,093,000 from the approved 2019 budget, with once again the proposed increase of 2.8% overall to the tax rate. The remainder mill rate increases due to the assessment net loss again this year. The non-residential municipal mill rate would also increase by 3.69%. The average non-residential assessment is $1,161,038, excluding the ADM and Husky refineries. Monthly impact figure using the average assessment increase, including the growth of 0.90%. We also use properties valued around $750,000, $1 million, and $1.5 million for those comparables. And once again, the annual increases are $396.43, $528.57, $613.69, and for the $1.5 million property of $792.86, or the monthly impact of $33.04, $44.05, $51.14, and $66.07 respectively. The education levy will generate approximately $15.4 million based on the proposed 2019 mill rates, which is collected and remitted entirely to the schools. This is a 1.4% overall decrease from last year. The education levy makes up approximately 30% of the city minister's total tax levy based on proposed rates. The proposed residential education mill rate sees a 2.1% decrease on average or on average $1.71 a month decrease on the property value of $350,000 in 2018. The proposed commercial education mill rate sees a 3.3% increase, or an average of $10.28 a month increase on a commercial property value around $1 million in 2018. Education mill rates this year are determined based on an estimated requisition from the province of Alberta, since we did not have the actual requisition due to the Alberta election call prior to the release of the Alberta budget. The rates were calculated by multiplying last year's provincial education rates by the new Lloydminster equalized assessment to come up with the Alberta education tax requisition. This was then divided by our actual 2019 assessment to come up with our localized Lloydminster education rates. These mill rates were then submitted to the province of Saskatchewan for approval. Hopefully later in April of this year, we will receive an official letter upon approval of the province of Saskatchewan to support bringing them forward to council for approval on May 6th. The slide before you shows the residential impact for education only. And you'll see that there's a reduction as the properties valued at $250,000, $291,350, and $488. We see a respective reduction of $30.19, $36.05, $42.26, and $60.38 annually, or a monthly impact of a reduction of $2.52, $3.52, and $5.03. The non-residential impact to education only, if you recall, it rose slightly to those properties valued at $751 million, 1.17 and 1.5. We see an increase of $118.73, $158.31, and $183.81, and $237.47, or monthly. That's an annual impact, or the monthly impact of $9.89, $13.19, $15.32, and $19.79. Once again, just to illustrate that the municipal levy is 70% of our taxes and the educational levy is 30%. We have included historical mill rate comparatives. The total residential mill rate changed equals 0.1759. or 1.82% increase in overall rate, which includes a municipal tax rate increase of 0.2345 mils and an educational tax rate decrease of 0.0586 mils. The bid mill rate is no longer being charged to Business Improvement District as it was dissolved in 2018. Municipal and capital mill rates have been combined into one mill rate. The total commercial mill rate change is 0.5452. 3.46% increase in the overall rate. The seamless education levy has remained the same. The slide before you shows the total residential impact of both the municipal levy and the educational levy. And once again, the comparative properties, you will see total levy will decrease by $12.70. $15.16, $17.78, and $25.40 annually, or a monthly impact of $1.06, a reduction of $1.06, a reduction of $1.26, a reduction of $1.48, or a reduction of $2.12 on a monthly impact of those selected properties. The non-residential impact total, as you can see for the selected properties, is an increase of 3.46%, or across the board, as we look at those properties, an increase of $518.96 annually, $691.95 annually, $803.38 annually, and $1,037.92 annually, or a monthly impact, once again, of $43.25, $57.66, $66.95, or $86.49, respectively. Some of the key dates coming up for council in regards to the mill rate bylaw is request for decision to City Council for the 23rd meeting for the first reading of the mill rate bylaw. The order to council was received from Saskatchewan approving the proposed education mill rates by May 1st. The request for decision to City Council for May 6th meeting for the second and third readings of the mill rate bylaw. And the property tax notices are mailed before May 30th, 2019, hoping to mail them the second week of May. The property taxes are due on June 30th with the pending date of July 1st, 2019.
Thank you.
I do have a Scott, and I'd like to commend his team for putting this information together. Hopefully the council found it useful. And Scott is available for follow-up questions if the council has any.
Thank you, City Clerk. Councilor Torres.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just kind of confused on one thing and kind of hung up on it. In the changes to taxable assessment, if you were to go to that slide, which would have been the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th slide.
Okay.
It shows, this one here, it shows on the inflation side that basically everything went down in terms of if something was built, and I know different properties, different areas on average may have, slight variations, but as a whole, it's showing a negative in terms of inflation for non-residential and non-residential and machinery. But then when we're looking at the application of the new mill rates, we're applying an increase to each of those in terms of the assessment. So when we look at non-residential impact, it's showing an increase of 0.9%. When we look at the inflation on the change in the assessments, they're all showing decreases. So I'm just trying to understand, why are we going, on the whole, did non-residential increase or did they decrease? I'm just trying to understand what rates we're applying for our examples.
Thank you, Councilor. The reason we're showing a 0.9% increase is because the growth is actually in that number. So when you look at the overall difference from 2018 non-residential assessed values to 19, there was actually a 0.9% increase. But that doesn't mean that every property went up on an average of 0.9. It's just building growth in there as well. So the casino, the gas, the Honda dealership, those type of developments are in there. So it's kind of, I don't know, the way the assessments are shown there, it gives you the assumption that everything went up by 0.9, but it's based on an average. Most of our slides are averaging values.
Okay, so it's an average increase when you combine the growth with the inflation, but the reality is, if I'm looking at my individual property, it likely, when I look at this year's assessment to last year's assessment, if it was built already and isn't something new, which would be growth, presumably it would have gone down because overall properties went down. That's not true for every single property, I understand that. But on the whole, it should be true that the inflation side of things would mean that the property has a lower value.
Yes, that's correct. So overall by inflation, we're down about 2%, but with the new growth, it put us at 0.9. So when we're using averages to keep everything consistent through the slideshow, we use the average.
But I guess we would have done the same thing with the residential, correct? So, and I don't know why that one, maybe because it's a negative number and we're showing a negative number on the assessments when we're comparing last year's to this year's, but for whatever reason, just kind of throwing me off a little bit. Because at the end of the day, the increase in growth in terms of assessment for new builds, that's net new money. We're going to apply a mill rate to that, and that's net new money. Whereas if someone is looking at that same chart and saying, all right, kind of where do I fit in the picture with a $1.5 million building, you might get the wrong assumption that things are all increasing, but the reality is you're potentially having a property that went down in value this year, and you're just applying a slightly higher mill rate to it to adjust for the fact that the assessments are down, and to adjust for the fact that the city as a whole needs more money within their budget.
And that's correct. We use averages. Obviously, we can't show every single property
Yeah.
within the city, so you're just trying to show averages to give council some illustration of what would happen to a typical property.
Okay.
Councilor Baker.
Couple of questions, if I may, just one follow-up question first on Councilor Jonathan. The big assessment drop was last year, right?
It was a little larger last year.
Yeah, it was larger last year. So we're working from July 18 to July 19.
July
No, 17 to 18.
July 1st, 2018 is our evaluation date.
All right.
So that's when properties, that would be the market value we're trying to reflect.
Yeah. So there was a fair spike downwards over that period of time. There was certainly
It's
real estate
been,
value.
it's been a little downturn, yes, for sure.
No.
It was bigger from 2015.
I'm just backing up for a minute.
Yeah.
Just to get my head clear. Last year, our assessment was down.
Yes.
It was down somewhat more
Yeah.
because real estate market and evaluation was down. So we're down again a little bit. So what we're saying, it kind of leveled out somewhat?
Yeah, I think the number last year was 1.6% overall decrease, and this year is 1.3%. So not a whole lot of change.
So it's down a little
But
bit,
it's still continuously going down.
still going down a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because when you get to the commercial side, certainly in the industrial buildings, they're really down. Most of them are really down. I don't know what you value it in, but the sales price. So the real market value or the fair market value is certainly down. So that's what I wanted to know from Councilor Jonathan's question. Two questions I have my own. If Saskatchewan and Alberta, May 6th is not very far away. So are they not obliged by law to have the tax out by a certain date like us?
The provinces use a best practice of May 1st, but they have ways around it. It's just a policy they have in place. They don't have to. It's to do with the Saskatchewan education tax, and technically they've already presented their rates to the public. It's just that Lloydminster's a bit of a different situation. So the Saskatchewan government has already met their deadline on May 1st. They just haven't met it with us. So actually, I did had some correspondence with the Saskatchewan government today, and what they're going to do is their minister is going to give us a letter before May 1st outlining the rates, and then we're going to get our order of council after, but we can move forward. So I just received that email a few minutes ago. So they're going to give us a letter stating these are the rates you can use, and we can move ahead and have our May 6th meeting, and then we'll get the order of council after.
If they don't get their mill rate out on time, do we send our taxes out anyway?
No, we don't.
Not because
Our tax rates has to include an education rate.
that would mean sending two,
We're not even allowed.
handing one off to the school division.
We're not allowed to even do that way. We can't have a split mill rate. We have to do it all in one mill.
The other question, and just so the public's aware of it, we've taken over, taking over our own assessment.
Yes.
And as you know, last year we had some really tough problems with our assessment. Buildings were, some people took amazingly large increases, which was hard to justify. I guess what I'm asking for as a member of this council, that before those notices go out, we have a good look at them and make sure it's fair and just for all. Because it's almost an arbitrary number. Because if they have to build one new building in your subdivision, then all of a sudden your taxes go up. And you know what the rates, people had 30–40% increases last year. And they didn't like it, and they still don't like it, and I understand that. But what's done is done. But I just hope that this year that we're balanced and fair and just to everybody, because business is having trouble just like individuals. And we know that there's many people, not everybody's got the dollars that it takes to live in the city any longer because of the cost. And I just hope that we have a really good look at that. And I know you will. It's not because you told me that, but publicly I'm going to say that on record now, because I think that we have to take those steps to make sure that we protect the people in the city.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. I would like to point out, I have physically looked at every single property. We've ran numbers, and anything that had outliers larger than the typical, we've done reviews of. Anything that we couldn't justify ourselves as to the reasons why they increased, we've sent it out to KCL and asked them to review it.
Have you talked to the owners?
Well, we passed it out to KCL and asked him to do that. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
But you will be getting feedback.
yeah, for sure.
Well, good for you, because that's very important. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
No, good question, Councillor. From my role, I certainly felt the same discussions you had in many cases. And I appreciate Scott's efforts by looking at the tax roll, doing as much as we can to oversee and ensure that it's equitable, because that's really what it comes down to me, trying to pick off those outliers and sitting down with people and making sure that they've done renovations and they've done improvements. Those do reflect in their assessments and helping people understand that. But yeah, we hope that we've smoothed over the biggest bumps in the road. There's still going to be a few, I'm sure. There always is, but I'm sure we've taken a good number of the bumps. Councillor McGill.
So it's a very good presentation. Last week at the GBC, it was very thorough as well. I was quite clear on it until Councillor Torres asked his question. Now I'm a little bit more confused. So if you go to the non-residential impact municipal levies only slide, no, where is it? Okay, so that 0.9%. That, I get it, that there was new builds on the Saskatchewan side, so you take the general because you can't do every property, I understand that. So if you just look at this 1.5 million non-residential property, that could actually be 1.4.
Absolutely.
Right? So then they would actually have an impact of negative whatever percent, correct?
It'll be less than the 66 here.
Right? So then it could be actually that they're not. I just don't want if a resident that owns property comes up to me and says, oh, so I'm going to get a bill and it's going to be $800 more a year now and my taxes. Well, I don't actually know what your assessment was. So prior to his question, I may have agreed with them that necessarily they're, okay, I'm just looking at it quickly, it is going up. But it all depends on what their assessment was for that property. It could technically be going down.
That's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is just averages.
Sorry, I just needed to clarify that because the public's going to ask questions and I don't want them to assume off of one slide that necessarily, if they don't understand how everything's correlated, that, oh, my taxes are going up. Well, the mill rate's going up, and yes, the percent is, but necessarily depending on their assessment,
This
their
slide's
actual payment may not.
more for illustration, so if they were to
Right.
look at their assessments, see where they fit in. Obviously, if they're less than the 1.5 million, they're somewhere between the 1.5 and 1.1, then
Right.
they kind of figured it out. We're just trying to give some information to council on the type of impacts that could happen.
No, absolutely, and I understand that. Just his question kind of confused me, so then I had to get thinking a little bit more intricately. So, thank you, Scott.
Councillor Carson.
Thank you. That's what I'm here to do. Here to confuse people. I just have a quick question, possibly for our CFO. So when everything shook out in terms of the net budget increase in terms of the property tax ask from existing assessment, do we know what that amount was? So that would have been whatever was at our budget last year, adjusted for our most recent adjustments. So do you know the percentage increase of property taxes in the city?
You're asking what is the increase in the municipal tax levy in dollars?
Yes, or percentage.
So I've got it recalculated to be what it is right now with the assessment in there.
Yeah.
So that will be 2.38.
See, I think, thank you very much.
That's not including the revisions that we just made. We will be bringing that down by $88,000.
So 2.26 or something like that. So either way, I think that's what's really, you know, at the end of the day, more people, more often than not, get more confused by this than it really needs to be, and that's because there's a lot of moving parts. They look at mill rates, they look at assessments, and combining all of them, at the end of the day, the city required another 2.5% to run the operations. The costs to run the city went up by 2.5%. Therefore, property taxes went up by 2.5%. Everything after that, you know, your assessment changes, you know, essentially, depending on what happens with the assessment, that'll just make a higher mill rate. It's just, they have an inverse relationship. So people, often you'll hear them say things like, well, my assessment went down, but my property tax bill went up. And it's like, yes, effectively, the city needed 2% more to run the city this year. That's why that happened. The assessment is merely the function on how we distribute the pieces of the pie to the individual properties. What really matters that people understand is that overall it costs 2% more to run the city, and the rest is an exercise in math to distribute it fairly.
Well
That's
said,
all.
Councillor.
Yeah.
Other comments? Questions? Again, thank you to Scott. His
If Scott wants to make a quick comment about the assessment period.
Well, the appeal period is actually closing today, so we will see some changes in the assessment as far as our overall assessment. I'm just waiting to see what the numbers are going to be. We're getting quite a lot of traffic today, people wanting to discuss their properties and potentially appealing. So we will see some reduction in assessment. I know there's been multiple changes made in the last few weeks that's not impacted here. The changes the CFO made today are not here. All we've done today is ran off the numbers from the resolution of council joint budget in November. So any changes that are not reflected from what she had, so that'll be brought forward in the second and third reading. So once we get this 3.69% is the change required to get that dollars. So if our assessments drop more, then we might need to see that number go up. But again, it's the impact to the residents' tax dollars is what's really concerning, as Councilor Thorson just said.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll look to direction from City Council regarding first reading of 6.7.2. Councilor Batchor.
All right. Council Grant bylaw number 06-2019, the property tax mill rate and taxable assessment bylaw first reading.
Second by Councilor Craig. Any further comments before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Yosh,
Certainly.
I do have a question.
Certainly, Councilor.
If I may, to close on this, the 2% that Councilor Donaldson was talking about is fine. If it's 2%, just keep in mind, if the fellow gets a 20% hit, is where the problem is. It's not the person that gets the 2% hit. Inflation is what it is. We gotta remember, if we've got some and I'm sorry for bringing it up. No, I'm not sorry. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
That we realize where we are in our community financially and how tough it is for some of these businesses. So if it was 2% across the board for everybody, they could probably live with it. But that isn't the issue. With me, the issue is the big spikes that really throw businesses off. And so I just want to make that point. So we don't, but if 2% is good, that's good. But I just warn you if, okay.
And I think, I appreciate what you're saying, Councilor, and I think the term I use is in a perfect world. Exactly what Councilor Thorson said, 2%. Problem is, we live in an imperfect world. The assessment process is a process. We are getting better at assessment. I think it'll even be much better when it's in-house. We have assessors within the city and a staff, assessment manager to oversee that. It's an imperfect world, and that's the challenge that we will continue to face. You're absolutely right that if it was 2% across, it would be so much easier. I hope that we've leveled out that as best as we can with the assessments. We know that people need to take into account when they do renovations and things like that. And we'll continuously, this will be a discussion as long as we are sitting around this council table, because we know that every year And the economy is one item out of our control. I hope the provincial government of Alberta is now got that on their agenda, the government of Saskatchewan, and our federal government, because all three of those governments affect us every day, as we've talked about at this table, about taxes, grants, and the economy. And it's the fun part of being at the bottom of the darn step ladder, is finding out that you've reminded us many times before, Council Baker, that we take.
Yeah, we just want to add, I think it's important to remember that where we are in our journey relative to moving away from, land sales, offsetting our tax base. And so I think this is part of that correction process, and last year's, mill rate and adjustments were a big part of that step. And there's other steps relative to utility costs and other pieces that we're going down the road as well. And I think it's just, it's part of that journey. And I think we're on the right path, and there still will be bumps in it, nonetheless.
Absolutely. And I think that as we make it through one more year, we'll continue to see that evolution come forward. Further questions, comments before I call for the question? Not seeing any, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to agenda item number 7, Mayor and Council reports. I've included a council report, or a report to council on my activities for the last month or so. Again, lots of great activities throughout our community. It's been a very, spring is here, I believe. The Leisure and RV show was a success again this year. Certainly, there's been no shortage of meetings. At this time, I'd like to congratulate Premier-elect Kenny and thank former Premier Rachel Notley for her service to the province of Alberta. Certainly had the opportunity to speak to our newly elected MLA to be sworn in, Garth Rosewall, and wish him all the best in his future endeavors as our new MLA. He has a big chunk of ground to cover and also a big learning curve. And I'd like to thank all the candidates that put their names forward in the last provincial election in Alberta. I had the opportunity to speak to 5 out of the 6 of them and spend time with them. And certainly each one of them had the best intents for the province of Alberta and wanted to bring the best that they could forward for our constituency. I'd like to thank those people that put their names forward and made that effort, because we know as elected officials ourselves, this is not an easy task to get elected to start with, and then the work begins once elected. So I wish them all the best from that perspective. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to report at this time. Is there anything else that council members wish to report? Not see.
I got some. Yeah, this Saturday is the final day for the volunteer income tax program. So if anyone knows anyone who needs to get their taxes done and are fit into the seniors, newcomers to Canada, students, or otherwise low-income folks, they can come by Synergy Credit Union between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. I think we're over 500 returns this year, so we're going to keep her going, and we want to get over 600. I really don't know what number we're at, but one way or another, I hope we get over 600 this weekend. So if anyone knows anyone who is in need of this service, it will be provided free of charge, and their returns are checked over by accounting professionals and prepared by Lakeland students. So it's a great program, and I really like doing it. I just wanted to add one name to the list, just because I don't recall from what you were talking about there, Your Worship, Richard Starkey. I think a big thank you to Richard Starkey for his service to our community as well, seeing as he is now no longer serving in government, but I think we all really appreciated a lot of his wisdom that he's been able to impart on us through our communications with him. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That's a great catch. A big thank you to Dr. Starkey for his public service to this community and this constituency. Certainly much appreciated. The former councillor at this table went on to serve as MLA for our province. For this constituency, very much appreciated. Last item I'd just like to add, bring to people's attention if they haven't seen them, is the street sweepers are out and will be sweeping streets and roadways for the next some time. So please be aware of the signage in your neighborhood or on your area where you're living or where you're working, so that they have the opportunity to take full advantage of getting the street as clean as possible without vehicles parked there. So I know that communication's gone out from communications, and we'll look forward to the media carrying that message loud and clear to people, the residents and businesses of our city. Any other comments? Not seeing any, I'll ask you, is there any other matters at this time that this council needs to deal with? Not seeing any, we look to inquiries from the media.
Thank you, Your Worship. Media have asked to speak only with yourself and others.
I will look for
Motion to recess.
motion to recess, seconded. Councilor Thorson, all in favor? Carried.